Evolution of management. So, before screening this table, let me introduce you with the history of the management. So, organizing behavior directed by people, responsible for planning, organizing, leading, and controlling activities, have been in existence for thousands of years. Management has been practiced in some form or the other since the dawn of civilization. Ever since human beings started living together in groups, techniques of organization and management were evolved. The Egyptian pyramids, the Chinese civil services, the Roman Catholic Church, the military organization, and the Great Wall of China, for instance, are tangible evidence that projects of tremendous scope, employing tens of thousands of people, were undertaken well before the modern times. The pyramids are particularly interesting example. The construction of a single pyramid occupied more than 100,000 workers for 20 years, who told each worker that what did one do, who ensured that there would be enough stones at the site to keep the workers busy. The answer is the managers. Regardless of what managers were called at that time, he had to plan what was to be done, organize people and materials to do it, lead and direct the workers, and impose some controls to ensure that everything was done as planned. This example from the past demonstrates that organizations have been around for thousands of years, and that management has been practices for an equivalent period. However, two pre-20th century events played a significant role in promoting the study of management. First is the father of economics, Adam Smith. Contribution in the field of management, and second is the influence of Industrial Revolution in management practice. Adam Smith names is typically cited in field of economics for his contribution to classical economic doctrine, but his contribution in Wealth of Nations 1776 outlined the economic advantage that organization and society can gain from the division of labor. He used the pin manufacturing industry for his example. Smith noted that 10 individuals, each doing a specialized task, could produce 400 for 4,800 pins a day. However, if each worker separately and had to perform each task, it would be quite an accomplishment to produce even 10 pins a day. Smith concluded that division of labor increased productivity by increasing each worker's skill and dexterity by saving time lost in changing tasks and by creating labor saving invention and machinery. The second phenomenon is industrial revolution. Industrial revolution is another most important aspect that influences management in pre-20th century. The major contribution of the Industrial Revolution was the substitution of machine power for human manpower, which in turn made it more economical to manufacture goods in factories. The advent of machine power mass production, the reduced transportation cost that followed a rapid expansion of railroads and lack of governmental regulation also fostered the development of big organizations. Now, a formal theory to guide managers in running their organization was needed. However, it was not until the early 19th that the first major step towards developing such as a theory was taken. The period of evaluation of management, though, are highlighted in the following table. Management period. This is a classification of management early contribution up to 19th centuries. Scientific management covered from 1900 up to 1930, the time before the Great Depression. Administrative or operational management from 1960 up to 1940. Human relations approach from 1930 up to 1950. Social systems approach or theory from 1945 up to 1965. Decision theory approach from 1950 up to 1960. Management science approach 1950 up to 1970. Human behavior approach also 1950 up to 1970. System approach 1960 onwards. Contingency approach 1970 onwards. Here we use this table to select the date of each school. Approximately, is quite enough. Inside this schools there are many sub-schools. Let's thus check the factors affecting management zone. Management zone have two phases evolved under the anxiety of political, social, and economic forces. These are explained as follows. Political forces affecting management zone. Management zone have been shaped by the political forces manifested through the administration of political institutions and government agencies. The important political forces include the political assumptions with respect to property rights, contractual rights, concepts of justice, judicial processes, and attitude towards governmental control versus laissez-faire. Legal processes which emanate from political pressure, such as the Union Carbide disaster, have a tremendous impact on management thinking and practice. Political pressures also define the interrelated rights of consumer, supplier, labor owners, creditors, and different segments of public. Generally speaking, management thus has been shaped by the political forces manifested through the administration of political institutions and governmental agencies. Social factors, from other hand, these evolve from the values and beliefs of a particular culture of people. The needs, education, religion, and norms of human behavior dictate the relation among people, which form social contracts. Social contract is that unwritten but understood set of rules that govern the behavior of the people in their day-to-day interrelationship. The same happens between corporations and their constituents, labor, investor, creditors, suppliers, and consumers. These social contracts define relationship responsibilities and liabilities that influence the development of management. So it gives the society a sense of order and trust in which human affairs can be conducted in relative security and confidence. The last factor is economic factor. These forces determine the scarcity, transformation, and distribution of goods and services in a society. Every social institution competes for a limited amount of human, financial, physical, and information resources. This competition over scarce resources allocates them to their most profitable use and is motivator of technological innovation by which resource availability can be maximized. This is the contribution of leading thinkers. Classical school. The classical development of management so can be divided into scientific management, the organizational management, and the behavioral management and quantitative management. So there are four schools belong to classical management: scientific, organizational, behavioral, and quantitative. The first two, scientific management and organizational, emerged in late 18th and early 19th, were used on the management beliefs that people were rational, economic creators. Choose a course of action that provide the greatest economic gain. These schools of management source are explained below. Scientific management. Scientific management means application of scientific methods to the problem of management. It conducted a business or affairs by standard established by facts or truths gained through systematic observation, experiments, and or reasoning. The following individuals contribute the development of scientific management school of management. So they dedicated to the increase in efficiency of labor by the management of the workers in organizations technical core. They are, for example, Charles Babbage. He was a professor of mathematics at Cambridge University, 1828 up to 1839. He concentrated on developing the efficiencies of labor production. He, like Adam Smith, was a proponent of a specialization of labor, and he applied mathematics to the efficient use of post-production materials and facilities. He wrote 9 books and over 70 papers of mathematics, science, and philosophy. He advocated that the managers should conduct time studies data to establish work standards for anticipated work performance level and to reward the workers with bonuses to the extent by which they exceed their standards. His best known book is On the Economy of Machinery and Manufacturers. His book published in 1932. He visited many factories in England and France, and he found that manufacturers were totally unscientific and most of their work is guesswork. Frederick Taylor, 1856-1915. He is known as the father of scientific management. His ideas about management grow out of his wide-ranging experience in 3 companies: Midvale Steel Workers, Simmons Rolling Mills, and Bethlehem Steel Corporation. As an engineer and consultant, Frederick Taylor observed and reported on what he found to be inexcusably inefficient work practices, especially in steel industry. Taylor believed that workers' output was only about one third of what was possible. Therefore, he set out to correct the situation by applying scientific methods. Taylor's philosophy and ideas are given in his book Principles of Scientific Management, published in 1911. Henry John. He was a consulting engineer who specialized in control system for shop scheduling. Frank and Lillian. Frank Gilbert, a construction contractor by background, gave up his contracting career in 1912 to study scientific management after hearing Taylor speak at professional meeting. The man Gilberts were among the first to use motion pictures films to study hand and body motions. SC Organizational Management. The Organizational School of Management placed emphasis on the development of management principles for managing the complete organization. The contributors of organizational schools are Henry Foyle for his technical, commercial, and financial aspects, security, accounting, managerial, etc., with his 14 principles. Max Weber. He was a German sociologist writing in the early 19th. Weber developed the theory of authority structures and described organizational activity on the basis of authority relationship. James Mooney and Ellen. James Mooney was a General Motors executive who teamed up the historian Alan Riley to expose the true principle of an organization in their books, and others. They have their contribution in the behavioral school. The school of behavioral management theory involved in recognition of the importance of human behavior on organizations. So the classical development of management can be divided into scientific management, organizational, behavioral, and scientific, behavioral, and quantitative management. Framework for the management law. In the past, the business houses, particularly corporates, did not have a high academic structure and position in the society, and it certainly completed the scholars inculcate the academic interest in the study of business management so that its real fruits could be realized for the stakeholders under reference. Their was a widespread belief that management process consisted of hidden tricks, mysterious clauses, and initiative knowledge that could be mastered only by a few definitely gifted people. Moreover, the businessmen were very much afraid that through the study of management their tricks and secrets would be exposed. But the advent of industrial revolution and the introduction of large-scale mechanized production and resultant growth of trade, industry and commerce necessitated the study of management. The evolution of management, though, might be better approached through the framework shown in this slide. There were the scientific management school and the organizational school, behavioral and the quantitative school came into existence. There are four schools merged into integration schools, which led to the contemporary schools of management. For example, the root of integration schools come from quantitative, behavioral, organizational, and scientific management. Scientific management school, organizational schools come from classical school, and contemporary schools is a product of the above mentioned schools, is the harvest actually. Organizational school. The organizational school of management placed emphasis of the development of management principle for managing the complete organization. The contributors of organizational school are Henry Fayol, Max Weber, and James D. Money and Alan Haley, Chester Barnard, Herbert Simon, and others. But we will focus mainly on the contribution of Henry Fayol. He is more sound. Henry Fayol was a Frenchman with considerable executive experience who focused his research on the things that managers do. He wrote during the same period Tyler did. Tyler was a scientist and he was managing director of large French coal mining firm. He was the first to envisage a functional process approach to the practice of management. It was a functional approach because it defined the functions that must be performed by managers. It was also a process approach because he conceptualized the managerial job in a series of stages such as planning, organizing, and controlling. According to Theo Henry Foyle, all managers' tasks could be classified into one of the following six groups: technical, related to production; commercial, buying, selling, and exchange; financial, search for capital and its optimum use; security, protection for property and person; accounting, recording and taking stock of costs, profits, liabilities, keeping balance sheet, and compiling statistics; managerial, planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. He pointed out that these activities exist in every organization. He focused his work on administrative or managerial activities and developed the following definition. Planning meant developing a course of actions that would help the organization achieve its objective. Organizing meant mobilizing the employees and other resources of the organization in accordance with plan. Commanding meant directing the employees and getting the job done. Coordinating meant directing the employees and getting the job done. Coordinating means achieving harmony among the various activities. Controlling meant monitoring performance to ensure that the plan is properly followed.